Hello, I'm Debra Parmley, and tonight I'm going to read Chapter 1 from A Triple C Ranch Christmas Wedding. This book is set in L. James' Brotherhood Protectors world in Montana and is the story of Jack and Lucy, who you met in Montana Marine, which was the first book I set in her world. So, without further ado, Chapter 1. Eagle Rock, Montana. Gunny, when are you going to ask Lucy Woods to marry you? Hank Montana Patterson, CEO of Brotherhood Protectors, asked. Gunnery Sergeant Jack Gunny Barr had stopped by the Brotherhood Protectors office to pick up his next assignment. The former Marine enjoyed working for Hank and being a part of the Brotherhood, all of whom were veterans. He thought about the engagement ring currently tucked inside his pocket. The custom-ordered ring had turned out exactly as he'd wanted after weeks of deliberation over the design. How do you surprise and please a woman who is a jewelry designer? You watch her for a month as she designs and creates jewelry of her own to learn what she likes, what she dislikes, and you listen to her very closely. She thought he was just interested in her business and being supportive. She'd had no idea he had another motive. He'd been waiting for the right moment to ask Lucy to marry him, but so far that moment hadn't arrived. The guys had been teasing him about when he would ask her, but this was the first time Hank had brought it up. Hank was waiting for an answer, but Jack wasn't sure what to tell him. Soon, Jack mumbled, though he had no idea how much longer soon would be. Impatience and nervousness, unfamiliar emotions, at least to him, had ridden him ever since he'd picked up the custom-designed ring. Lucy was so busy getting her new jewelry design business off the ground that she had little time left for romance. Her online store, Bedazzled and Bejeweled, was on hold while she filled custom orders for a jewelry store in Bozeman, which catered to customers from all over the world and had started carrying her designs. Hank held out a folder to Jack with the information he would need to familiarize himself with before his next assignment. Jack took the folder and flipped the front page open, glancing down at it. Another actress, he said. Yes, her boyfriend just broke things off, but he's also an actor, so there's nothing unusual there. She has a premiere to attend and several other events. Basic bodyguard service for a month, and then I'll cycle you back here. One thing they'd all learned about Hollywood actresses was that many of them had fantasies of making it with their bodyguard. Cycling the men with shorter assignments prevented close attachments. Jack's first job with the Brotherhood Protectors had been protecting the actress Angelica Glory from a love-obsessed stalker. It turned out he'd also needed to protect her assistant, Lucy Woods, as well. Since then, he'd guarded many celebrities, but none of the jobs since or in the future would be as memorable as his first job. He'd fallen in love with Lucy and hoped to make her his wife. L.A. wasn't Jack's favorite place, but he hadn't asked Hank to exclude him from any out-of-state assignments yet. If Lucy said yes, he would. There'd be a wedding and a honeymoon to work around. When do you want me there? He asked. Tomorrow or Friday, Hank said. Depends on how early you want to get there. She has a luncheon on Saturday, which isn't in the folder because her manager forgot to tell us. Great, Jack said. I'll go Friday. That gives me tonight to ask Lucy. Good luck, Hank grinned at him. She's a great gal. Thanks. Jack's thoughts were already on tonight and how he would ask her, not on the upcoming job. Warmth spread through his chest at the thought of seeing her again. The image of Lucy in his mind led his thoughts away. The way her big blue eyes lit up when she saw him always made his day. Her long black hair was soft, touchable, and shone in the right lighting. Her pink, kissable lips tasted so good when they kissed. To Jack, she was the most beautiful woman in the world, and the most loving woman he had ever known. Lucy was more than just a great gal. She was the love of his life, and whether she said yes or no tonight, she would always be the woman who held his heart. Realizing his mind had drifted, he redirected his thoughts. He would pop the question, get her answer, and then refocus on what he needed to do for the job. Anything else I need to know about this job? He asked. Nope, Hank said. You've got everything. Good, Jack said. He didn't realize his knee had been bouncing up and down until Hank looked pointedly at it and said, The sooner you ask her, the sooner you'll get over that case of nerves. Jack forced his knee to be still and raised his eyebrows. What nerves? I'm cool. Right, Hank said with a knowing smile. Lucy wished her boyfriend, Jack Gunny Barr, wasn't leaving again so soon. She never called him Gunny unless they were with the men of the Brotherhood Protectors, because she much preferred calling him Jack, and he didn't care which name she used. Tall, with dark hair and brown eyes, which made her feel all warm and gooey inside when he looked at her a certain way, Jack was her dream man in every way. Who would have guessed when I came to Montana with my boss to hide from that crazy stalker that I would meet the love of my life? She looked up into those eyes and smiled clear down to her bones. It was always a good evening when Jack was near. Let's go for a walk, Jack said. Gaze at those stars you like so much. She giggled. Every time he took her outside at night to gaze at the stars, he ended up kissing her before they were done. I'd love to, she said. One of her favorite things in the world was going stargazing with him. But even better was the kissing. She smiled, keeping her thoughts to herself. Here in Montana, the night sky was clear when the clouds moved past, and you could see all the stars, unlike outside her apartment back in LA, where smog and light pollution got in the way. That place had been the worst she'd ever lived when it came to seeing the stars. Since leaving LA, she'd enjoyed an extended stay in a hotel in Bozeman while working on getting her jewelry business off the ground there. She'd moved to be near Jack, who lived in a small apartment in Bozeman, and she loved Montana, especially the night sky there. The stars would be especially pretty tonight. He grabbed both her coats from the chair, helped her into her coat, then put his own on, before leading her from his apartment outside into the cooler September night air. They walked toward the park and crossed the street. After they entered the park, they headed toward the gazebo, where they went inside the gazebo and sat down. It's a great night for stargazing, he said. It is, she agreed, looking up at the stars glittering in the dark night sky. I love our walks in the park. I'm glad you're enjoying your time here, he said. Do you think you'd like to stay in Bozeman longer after your jewelry business is set up with the local stores? He'd slipped the question in quietly, and she was surprised by the new direction their conversation was taking. Why is he asking? Does he want me to move in with him? Or is he expecting I'll move on soon? Her stomach started to do butterfly flutters as her nerves kicked in. They had never discussed any kind of future. It was always about what was happening right now and how much they were enjoying themselves. We have a good time together, but is that all this is to him? I'd like more, but I don't know what to say. I don't want this to end between us. What if I say the wrong thing and he doesn't want the same thing I do, and then it's all over? Well, I really like it here, and I like being near you, she said. Especially on nights like tonight, she smiled up at him. I haven't missed LA at all. Though this had come as a surprise to her, it was true. And your dream of being a costume designer in Hollywood, he asked? Oh, there was that dream she'd had. She hadn't thought about it since moving out here and focusing on her jewelry business. Pausing to gather her thoughts, she answered, I'm enjoying the jewelry design and things are picking up here. I think maybe jewelry is in my future. My future is in jewelry rather than fashion design. And I'm not sure I can go back to the nightclub scene with cameras going off in my face. I never really liked that part. It's quieter out here. People are nicer. So you'd be happy not going back? He said, as if to confirm what she just told him. As long as I'm designing jewelry and it seems to be well received here, yes, she said. You're not going to be able to stay at that extended stay hotel forever, he said. It's going to get expensive. What's your next plan? Next plan? She hadn't made one. What does he want me to say? What does he want? Does he want me to stay here or to move on? I don't know what to say to him. He watched her so intently she feared he'd see her sudden panic show on her face, so she tried to force her panic down. I really don't know, she said. I haven't made any future plans yet. Non-committal, that was the best answer. Jack's gaze moved away from her and he pulled away and stood. Oh my God, that was the wrong answer to give him. What is he doing? Her heart was racing, but she felt frozen in place, waiting to see what he would do, waiting to hear what he would say. This is it. It's over. His face is so serious. He's going to tell me goodbye. Instead, he got down on one knee and reached into his pocket. Lucy gasped and clasped both her hands over her mouth as her eyes widened. Is he proposing? Lucy Woods, Jack said, may I have your hand in marriage? He is. He's proposing. The words registered, yet didn't, so she remained speechless, trying to absorb what he was saying to her, trying to absorb the sight in front of her. His expression was closed, but his eyes glittered in the starlight. His expression turned wary, as if he was preparing for a letdown, yet he remained there, still down on one knee, waiting for her answer. She realized she had waited too long to answer him, and that wasn't fair to him. A rush of warmth flowed through her, and she dropped her hands immediately and reached for his. Yes! He breathed in sharply, taking in her one word, and then let out a breath, just as quick. Tears of happiness pricked in her eyes, so she had to blink hard to see him. Oh, yes, Jack, yes, I will marry you. He took her left hand and slipped the engagement ring onto her finger so smoothly it felt as if it belonged there, and it fit perfectly. She stood looking down at her finger. He pushed to his feet to stand in front of her as she held out her hand. The ring was beautiful. A diamond sparkled in the center, and on each side was a deep blue sapphire set in white gold. It's beautiful, Jack. She breathed the words out. I love it, she said, looking up at him again, trying not to cry. And I love you. I love you too, sweetheart, he said. He pulled her close for a deep kiss. She closed her eyes and leaned closer to him as he wrapped his arms around her and kissed her deep and long. Lucy forgot the chilly Montana air as they kissed and didn't notice it had grown colder until he pulled away. He cupped her cool cheeks with his warm hands and said, Let's go back inside my apartment and get warm. Okay, she said. He kissed her nose and then her forehead, his lips warm upon her skin, and then taking her by the hand, he led her back to his apartment, where they took up kissing again, this time on his couch. She was so caught up in being with him, she didn't text or call anyone to tell them about their engagement or her new engagement ring. Instead, she focused entirely on Jack as they talked about their future together. They both agreed that marrying sooner suited them better than marrying later. Lucy had always wanted to make her own wedding gown and had designed the dress a long time ago. She was sure she could have the gown done in time for a December wedding. They could be married before the year was over. Jack was fine with whatever she wanted to do. Guys aren't as into all the details of weddings like women are, he said with a smile and a wink. As long as you're happy, I'm happy. Jack, she placed her hand on his chest and looked up into his eyes. I'd love to be married at the Rise and Shine Ranch where we met, if we can rent it and if it's not too expensive." "We can try," he said. "But the ranch is closed and the owner has it up for sale. I'll check on it, though." She gave him a smile. "Thank you." "I want you to have the wedding of your dreams," he said. "Whatever you want, sweetheart, just tell me and I'll try to make it happen." Her smile deepened and he bent and gave her a kiss, which lengthened into another long make-out session. She loved their make-out sessions, and she loved the way he kissed her as much as she loved kissing him. That they would be able to do this for the rest of their lives thrilled her more than she could show him. She could have stayed there all evening kissing him, but she also had questions, especially now that he'd brought up the sale of the ranch. After they came up for air, she asked the first one what happened to Cayenne and Fanny. The horses they'd ridden on their first date were important to her, and she would always remember them fondly. Cayenne was a sorrel, a big, tall red horse who had looked intimidating to Lucy at first, but who had turned out to be well-trained and good-natured as Jack handled him. Freckled Fanny, Lucy's mount, was a smaller Appaloosa with black and white hindquarters and black dots on her fanny. Though Lucy had never been on a horse before and knew nothing about riding, the sweet and gentle mare had made her first ride easy. Her first horse ride, their first date, and their first kiss, that trifecta of happiness, had happened at the Rise and Shine Ranch. She would always remember it, and she hoped they could be married at the ranch where they had first met and come together, creating that trifecta. Branch Masters retired and moved to San Francisco to be near his son, Jack said. But before he moved, he took the horses to auction. Buck Harris at the Triple C Ranch bought them, so they're still in Eagle Rock, being well taken care of. I saw them last week when I pulled that night guard shift at the Triple C. "Oh, I'm so glad they found a good home," she said. "They are wonderful horses." "They are," he nodded. "I'm glad they found a good home, too. Where did Katie Wells go? And Ben?" "Ben would be a senior in high school now. I'm not sure where. He might have moved away. But Katie is still in Eagle Rock working at the local diner. I'm not sure if she still goes by Wells since she remarried." "I bet they're selling her pies at the diner," she said. "That wouldn't surprise me," Jack said. "We could go to the diner and ask." "I'd love that," Lucy said, "especially if we can have some of Katie's chocolate pie." "If we can't get the Rise and Shine Ranch for our wedding, I could see about getting the Triple C." "Would they allow us to get married there? I thought you said it was a woman's shelter." "Not a shelter. It's a center the women come to after they leave the shelter to learn skills for their new life. Then they graduate and move on. But it's a private place, right?" "It is. Won't hurt to ask them, though. The worst they can do is say no." He winked at her, and she realized he went about the world differently than she did. Instead of holding back, as Lucy sometimes did, worrying about upsetting people, Jack boldly moved ahead, which wasn't a bad thing at all. "He's right. There's no harm in asking. Maybe they would say yes." Jack had flown to LA after promising to let Lucy share their news first with everyone. Lucy drove to Eagle Rock to see Sadie Patterson at her and Hank's ranch. Sadie would be the first to hear their news, and Lucy couldn't wait to tell her. She rang the doorbell. "Lucy, what a surprise," Sadie said as she opened the door. "I have big news," Lucy said, unable to keep her secret 1 minute longer and to keep a huge smile from beaming out. "And you're about to bust with it," Sadie said, smiling as she waved her inside. "So what's up?" "We're getting married," Lucy blurted, a huge grin spreading across her face, her joy unable to be contained, even had she wanted to. "Jack asked me before he flew to LA. "Congratulations," Sadie said, giving her a big hug. "I'm happy for you both." "Thanks," Lucy said, moving back. "So," she tipped her head to peer closely at her friend, "will you be my matron of honor?" Sadie grinned. "I would love to be your matron of honor if you're sure you want me." "Of course I do," Lucy said. "My cousin is waffling on whether she's coming or not, and my best friend from high school is expecting a baby and due any day and isn't allowed to travel so far right now. You are the closest friend I have on this side of the country." The two women had known each other in Hollywood briefly and had become friends after Jack had saved Lucy from a stalker obsessed with them. Plus, Sadie showed off her purchases of Lucy's jewelry to anyone who had showed the least bit of interest and had been introducing Lucy around Bozeman and Eagle Rock to help Lucy get sales. In short, she'd been a better friend to Lucy than anyone Lucy had known since high school. Sadie was also the nicest actress Lucy had ever met. Her fame had not gone to her head. "Well," Sadie said, taking Lucy's hand and giving it a squeeze, "I would be honored to be your matron of honor and would do everything I can to help you with the wedding." "Thank you," Lucy said. "Wait until you see the sketches of my dress." Lucy tapped the portfolio she'd brought with her. "I've had my wedding dress design in mind for years." "I'll bet you have," Sadie said, "and I'm sure it's gorgeous. I can't wait to see it." Everyone knew Lucy had wanted to be a costume designer in Hollywood and had been designing jewelry for her online Etsy store and trying to get her business off the ground. Thanks to introductions by Sadie, who knew all the local shopkeepers, Lucy now sold her creations in several stores in the area and online. Lucy started opening her portfolio and pulling the designs out. Sadie stood. "Let me make us some tea and cookies while you get those out, and then we can settle in and start planning." "You're baking cookies?" That was the scent in the air, which Lucy hadn't really noticed until now. They smelled delicious. Lucy realized she'd showed up without notice and may have interrupted her friend in the middle of something. It was so unlike her to pop in on anyone, and she wished now that she hadn't been so intent on surprising her friend with her good news. "Oh, there's just one more tray to put in, and then they're done." Sadie moved toward the kitchen. "And I'm glad you surprised me. This is going to be a great day." That went a long way toward making Lucy feel better about popping in, but she told herself she wasn't ever going to do that again. It could have been a bad time to come by, and she didn't want to be like her old boss, Angelica, thinking only of herself. She texted Jack while she waited on Sadie to come back with the cookies and tea. "Sadie said yes to being my maid of honor. Now we are wedding planning." He answered, "That's great. Text me when you get home." He smiled. She smiled as she looked at the phone and was tempted to say "yes, sir" to her new Marine veteran fiance. Instead, she texted a happy face and an "okay." He always liked to know she got home safe, so this had become a new habit with them. It wasn't that he had to know where she was 24/7 like some guys who were insecure and controlling. He just wanted to know she'd arrived home safe and wasn't broken down on the highway or on a deserted road. There were long stretches of quiet roads in Montana and spots where cell phones didn't work so well. She placed her phone on the coffee table with her to-do list back up so she would see it and waited for Sadie. When Sadie came back with tea and cookies and placed them on the coffee table, Lucy said, "I really should have called you first." "Stop that," Sadie said with a wave. "This is a very special day. You had a lovely surprise, and I'm glad you're here. Now have a cookie and tell me more about the wedding." "Thank you." Lucy took a cookie and placed it beside her teacup. "The wedding is going to be at the Triple C Ranch. I thought about inviting some of the Hollywood people," she said, "but I really want us to be married at the Triple C, and we can't shine a light on them." "The wedding should be about you and Jack, not about the guests," Sadie agreed. "They have rules we have to follow," Lucy continued. "If we have the wedding there, all the guests have to go through a background check before I can even invite them. I can't put the address on the invitations. I can only tell them exactly where it is after they say they are coming out here. They have to sign non-disclosure statements saying they won't give away the location or take any pictures." "No pictures allowed at all?" Sadie asked, her eyebrows rising. "Only the official wedding photographer can take them," Lucy said. One of the best photographers in LA is offering to shoot the wedding photos as a wedding gift, but I'm going to turn her down and go with the one the center recommended because we don't know that the LA photographer won't leak the photos. There was an accusation once that she had leaked a photo of a wedding that was on a secluded island, and you know how it is with Hollywood people. Yes, I do, Sadie agreed. I think you're making a wise choice. Lucy smiled at Sadie, glad her friend approved. So, she continued on, we are just inviting family and close friends, keeping everything small. Lucy wrinkled her nose. Honestly, no one from LA has even tried to keep in touch with me since I moved out here. Not a one. It happens, Sadie said, shrugging. It's a different lifestyle out there, and most people in Hollywood are caught up in themselves, not really thinking about anyone who isn't in their vicinity. It's nothing against you personally, so don't take it that way. Sadie, who had been an actress in Hollywood, had experience with moving from the big city to a sprawling ranch in Montana where she'd married Hank Patterson. Lucy was glad to have Sadie as her friend. She really understood what Lucy was going through and was a true friend, not a let's do lunch kind of friend. There's so much to plan. Then let's get started, Sadie said. Tell me what you have so far. Lucy pulled out her cell phone and checked her to-do list. Okay, so on my list is a great big tree decorated for Christmas, then red and white poinsettias and some pretty Christmas bows and bulbs. That sounds lovely, Sadie said. I originally wanted to be married at the Rise and Shine Ranch, but it's vacant right now and for sale. The owner is a real grouch and won't consider renting it, even for a day. So I'm real happy Jack got the Triple C Ranch to say yes with conditions. I'm glad too, Sadie said. The Triple C is the newest ranch in the area and a beautiful setting for your wedding. Okay, let's tackle your list one thing at a time. The tree will be easy. We have plenty of trees out here. Sadie swept her arm in a wide circle and laughed. Great big Montana trees. Lucy laughed too. True, we do. Then she stopped laughing. Of course, we'd have to cut one. One of our Brotherhood Protectors, Tim Watson, worked as a lumberjack up in Canada. His nickname is Timbers. Sadie winked at her. He'd be the perfect guy to cut you a tree. You and Jack could pick out the tree, and then Timbers could cut it down and haul it back. I'm sure he'd be happy to help. Eventually, you'll meet all the members of the team. I'll ask him for you. That's perfect, Lucy said. Thank you. You're welcome. Let's make an appointment to pick out dresses, Lucy said. I'll need to pick one for my cousin in case she decides to come out after all. So there's just the two of you. My side of the wedding party is small. Jack has more close friends than I do, but he says we can keep the wedding party small. You didn't have time for friends while Angelica kept you running all over town for her. You had no private time at all. Lucy shuddered. She was exhausting and rarely pleased about anything. I know, Sadie said. She's like that on set too, from what I hear. I don't know how you stayed with her as long as you did. I don't either. I was different back then, before Jack. She didn't say it, but she thought it. Jack had made sure to let her know when he thought she wasn't being treated right and should stand up for herself with the volatile actress, and he'd done it in quiet ways, which had made her feel better about herself while going unnoticed by Angelica. She supposed that was when she'd first started to fall in love with him. He was so handsome and masculine and strong, but then so were many of the men in Hollywood. But Jack, he was different than the others. He noticed things. And he cared about her from the start. From day one, he treated her with respect, love, and encouragement. Being around him had made her a stronger woman. A smile curved across her lips as she remembered. You're daydreaming about Jack, aren't you? Sadie asked, her tone sly. Yes, Lucy laughed. I've been doing that more lately. But of course, you beautiful bride-to-be, Sadie said. That's what most brides do. It has been so nice eating where I want to eat for a change. Lucy steered the subject back. And planning my wedding with the things I want to do. When I worked for Angelica, I had no time to myself, but then suddenly I had all my time back. It's been heady, like the roof blew off, leaving everything wide open. You've done great. Look at all the lovely jewelry pieces you've had time to make, and how quickly they're selling. Your business should pick up even more, especially with Christmas coming. It has already, Lucy said. I've had to give everyone a date after which I can't take commissions because I need to finish my dress. Well, we're going to knock out this wedding planning and delegate who is doing what so you can get back to finishing your dress. I know that is a labor of love. It is, Lucy nodded. I just wish my mother and grandmothers were still alive to see it. Oh, they'll see it, Sadie said. They may not be physically sitting in a seat to watch your wedding where you can see them, but they'll be there in spirit. Lucy blinked back a tear. Sadie switched the subject. What do you want to do for your bachelorette party? That's on me, so I want to know what you've always dreamed of. Oh, Lucy blinked. Well, I never really dreamed about that part. Just the dress and a handsome husband who loves me. Well, start thinking of what you'd like to do, and I'll set it up. Okay, I'll think about it. They bent their heads together and continued planning. Before Lucy drove back to Bozeman that evening, they nearly had the entire wedding planned, except for the bachelorette party. She had no idea what she wanted to do for her party. Partying in a club was not what she wanted to do, but it was the only kind of bachelorette party she'd ever been to. Telling Sadie she'd get back to her on that, Lucy headed toward her car in the driveway. On the way there, Lucy ran into several of the Brotherhood Protectors. They each congratulated her on their engagement. Lucy smiled, knowing Jack must have texted Hank because word of their engagement had spread fast. She was enjoying the moment until the newest guy, Dan Crash Barnes, former U.S. Air Force, jokingly said, I can't wait till Gunny's bachelor party. He nudged Barrett Williams. Marines have the best bachelor parties. Last one I went to, we had to dunk the groom in the pool several times to wake him enough to get him to the wedding on time. You know Marines, another man Lucy didn't know said, and then they all laughed as if they were privy to an inside joke, which she was not. At that moment, Hank came out on the porch and called the guys into his office. They all waved goodbye to her and went inside. Wild bachelor parties and drunken grooms. That was not what she needed to hear about before the hour-long drive back to Bozeman. She frowned as she pulled out of the drive onto the main road. A drunk groom who had to be dunked in a swimming pool to make it to his bride's side on their wedding day would not fit in with her picture of the wedding she dreamed of and was planning for. Jack wouldn't do that, would he? He was the first Marine she had ever known. For the first time, doubt crept in, nagging at her as she drove home through the Montana night. That's the end of chapter 1. Hope you enjoyed this reading, and wishing you a beautiful day and a beautiful evening. Thank you for listening.